All right. Well, we're back for another show. And first off, I say every show is going to be fun. So they're all fun, I guess. But this one's going to be pretty cool because today we have a champion with us, and not just like a one-time champ. This guy, does, what is that? All I do is win, win, win. That's all he does is win. Head coach in arena football, former player. He's with the Albany Empire arena football team. He's the head coach, Rob Keefe. How's it going, Rob?
Andrew, man, thanks for having me on, man. Thanks for the intro. This is going to be fun. Yeah, really excited to be on.
Yeah, no, and it's cool because I had Chris Thompson on, who Chris and I go way back, and so I've had some arena football guys on just because my background in it over the last 20 years has been primarily what I've done. So it's cool to have you on because, and I want to hear more about your journey. But you've won how many championships?
I've been fortunate to win 5 championships in the arena football game. Yes.
Damn, that's awesome. I can't tell you how many seasons I've had undefeated only to lose in the championship.
Yes.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
Heartbreaking. Yeah, brutal.
So walk us through kind of like where'd you get your start? Where are you from? Where'd you go to college?
Sure. Yeah. I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, born and raised. You would say everybody calls it the DMV now. So you have the Washington, D.C., you have Maryland, you have Virginia. I was raised on the Virginia side. Went to a powerhouse high school right downtown in Washington, D.C., called Gonzaga College High School. So really that's kind of where I got my start. Just got to witness a lot of great football players, a lot of great talent. Obviously awesome education, and just kind of exposed me to the world really. I went to high school probably 7 or 8 blocks away from the Capitol building. The CNN building was right across the street from my high school. So really cool stuff. And then from a athletic standpoint, constantly both programs, I say both programs, but lacrosse as well, but lacrosse, basketball, football, all top 25 in the nation, year after year, consistently, just really cool stuff. And then from there, this is about 1998, I went to a prep school in Bridgeton Academy, Maine. So I went to a year of school in Maine. And the reason why I did that, I graduated high school at 17. So just really young for my age. A lot of colleges were interested, but we just felt as a family, probably just turning 17, probably wasn't a good idea. Just need to mature a little bit, get a little bit bigger, stronger, but mentally, physically, everything, emotionally, just big difference of a 17-year-old and 18-year-old. So
big.
I went to a Bridgeton Academy, Maine. It's actually in North Bridgeton, about 45 minutes outside of Portland, Maine. So again, another great, say worldly experience, but domestic experience in America. Maine is an entirely different area, but it was really cool because we played. You had to play 2 sports. That was the criteria to keep you active, to keep you busy. It's about maybe 300, 400 students at the school. Another all-male situation, so you're just really focused on the books, really focused on academics. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I loved it, and I played baseball and football up there, which is really cool. But I think the coolest thing from the football perspective is we played all Ivy League JV schools. So I got to play against 20 and 21-year-olds that were playing on the JV programs of Brown, Dartmouth, Harvard, Yale, just really cool experiences. So that was awesome. And then, for me being the size I was probably, at that time, I was probably about 5'9", probably 155 pounds. I was wide receiver, defensive back, kick returner, punt returner, a specialist. And then I had a lot of Division II opportunities. That was kind of the main hub of the athletic, I guess you would say, like, area that I kind of fit into at that time. And then I settled on, it was called Mercyhurst University, which is in Erie, Pennsylvania. PSAC, yeah. But, at that time, we were actually the GLIAC. But yes, okay. PSAC now, you're exactly right. So, Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, which they are in now. And this was about 99 to 03 is when I went to Mercyhurst. And we were in the GLIAC, which was Grand Valley State, which was coached by Brian Kelly, who's now the head coach of Notre Dame. He was our time there, Grand Valley State actually won the Division II national championship 3 times in a row. So that was good talent there. Matt LaFleur, who's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, was the quarterback for Saginaw Valley State. So I played against him. So a lot of good talent there. But yeah, it was mainly, Pennsylvania schools, Indiana schools, Michigan schools, Ohio schools. So again, got to see a different portion of the country. And then, as we really go on and talk about it, which I know we'll kind of, break and talk about other things, but that's really kind of, for me, the beginning stages of, again, football, growing up in the Washington, D.C. area, being very fortunate, not realizing what I had in front of me. When you're a kid, you just think everybody grows up in areas like Washington, D.C., inner city. I'm taking cabs at 14 years old to go to my father's office, catching the metro and the bus and all these kind of things. You just think people live like that, going to Maine, getting experience, JV, Ivy League schools. And then again, seeing a little bit about, the Midwest, and make, obviously great friends for life collegiately. And so that was kind of the beginning process of how everything worked.
Well, we must have just missed each other in Erie, because in 04-05, I started the indoor football team there, the Erie Freeze.
Awesome. Yes, Erie Freeze. Yes, that's great.
Yes.
So, to be honest with you, I probably played with a couple guys who've either played or tried out for the Erie Freeze, obviously going to Mercyhurst. And it's a small world right there.
Yeah. Mike Esposito was our head coach. He was a former AF2 coach.
Okay.
Erie Freeze. The team did really well up there. I started the league that year and then sold off the team to a local kid, young guy. And, they did good. Then, I think he sold off, maybe 3-4 years later, and then it kind of switched names a few times. But, good old Erie, Pennsylvania.
Well, I tell you what, Freeze is the right name for it, right? That's very apropos for Erie, Pennsylvania. The coldest place on earth is what I like to say.
Every time I would go there, it would be snowing. It'd be like June. It's snowing out. No,
I've never seen anything like it. Like I was amazed. I go from Maine to Erie, Pennsylvania, and it was, you're exactly right. And the funny thing is that, I took my recruiting visit in May. So, they kind of got me there, but great times, man. Loved Erie, just, great people, and, just really, really fortunate to have that opportunity to be there.
So when you were, kind of getting done your career there, I mean, did you just have that, itch to keep playing? Like, was somebody like, hey, you can play at the next level? Like, how did all that kind of?
Yeah, I was I was fortunate that I had a really great career in Mercyhurst. As a team, you're 6-5, at best. But really, obviously, really competitive, very competitive league. I think that kind of prepared me for the next level, especially for
what year were you? What year were you?
I was there from 99 to 03. It was when I was there.
Did you play Bloomsburg? Was it Bloomsburg?
No, Bloomsburg was in the PSAC, but we didn't play anybody in the PSAC. We never crossed over really to
I know Thompson was a quarterback there. That's why I was asking.
He was
right around that same time.
Yeah, he's a little bit older than me. But it's again, when you hook up with guys that are from the PSAC or from the GLIAC, it's, again, football's such a small world. There's only so many people that have played collegiately, and when you can find and narrow it down to a Division II level, it's pretty cool. Especially, and look, in that area, the region, the GLIAC, so the Great Lakes Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. For the position I played, I was a corner. I started a cornerback, and I was a punt returner and kick returner for Mercyhurst. Probably, I would probably say 6 out of the 9. You've played 9 or 10 games. 6 out of the 10 receivers that I covered my senior year all made it to the NFL. So I was just very fortunate to play against a lot of very, very good wide receivers. And that was at the beginning of the stages where, offenses really started to spread, right? When I talk about Brian Kelly, who's now at Notre Dame, he went from Grand Valley State to Central Michigan to Cincinnati, and now at Notre Dame. That was kind of the move that coaches would make. But that offense and obviously everybody trying to keep up with him, it was awesome. So for me, what happened was, I became an all-conference player. I was a regionally, first team All-American. So I was very fortunate to be there. As a punt returner again, as a defensive back, and so I started getting some looks for some CFL teams. I started having some workouts with some NFL teams. Worked out with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Worked out with Toronto Argonauts, the Montreal Alouettes. I started saying, okay, I think I can do this. And then the phone just kind of stopped ringing. And, this is 2004, 6 months removed from college. You're kind of like, what do you do? Well, I found myself in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was living down there. And that's really where I wanted to train. That was kind of at the time I was training with a big time trainer down there. Jamal Lewis, actually the running back for the Cleveland Browns and Baltimore Ravens. His brother, John Lewis, is a really big trainer in Atlanta. And so I was living there with a couple of friends who were also playing professional football. I was training out with guys who played for the Patriots and the Bengals, and Takeo Spikes and me got to know each other really well. So he was kind of a little mentor there in terms of how to tell me how to get to the next level. And people recognized I had this skill set, but it was, how do you go about it? Hiring an agent, making sure you get the right people around you, making sure you're obviously doing all the right things to get to the next level. And then how this all started, my arena football journey, I really didn't know that much about arena football. I remember watching on TV back in the day. It was on, in the early 2000s, it was on NBC. And me knowing that I had this kind of extra talent, I wanted to do something with it. And I always knew I would do something with football. But as most players do coming out of small colleges, you kind of feel a little lost. And I'm sure all colleges, you feel a little lost if football's not in your life. And so it was kind of that 23 to 24-year-old range where you're like, hey, I don't really want to get a real job. I really want to continue this. So what do I do? At the time, I'm selling door to door, marketing, advertising but I'm working out in the mornings at 6 o'clock. I'm going to work from like 9 to 4, and then I'm working out from 7 to 9, on this kind of schedule where you're really in a grind. You're really learning how to, a lot about yourself, but, you're kind of, you want to go after that dream. And I remember these days fondly because it kind of got me to where I am, and it helped me, grow as a person, because you're doing something that you don't want to do, but it's kind of what you need to do to eat and to pay the bills so you can obviously continue to live your dream. Very not too dramatic, but very like 8 Mile-esque kind of thing where you have this dream and you're not liking where you're in and you're kind of stuck, but you have this talent. Much like a lot of movies and books that you read. So what was the spark for me? I just got to the point where I was like, I was willing to work out and try out for anyone. And I was actually working out at a Gold's Gym in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'll never forget it. And I saw a flyer. It was for the Columbus War Dogs in Columbus, Georgia, which is about 2.5 hours south of Atlanta. And it was an open workout. And it was an open tryout. It was like, $65. Come down, show out for the coaches. The head coach's name was John Forcade, former quarterback in Mississippi. And for New Orleans Saints, and just a great guy. But at that time I said, look, I have no problem doing this. Like I'll do anything. And it was about 2 weeks after I saw the flyer was when the workout was. So did the best I could, like looked up as much as I could about arena football. Didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I knew it was football. So workout was like at 8 o'clock in Columbus, Georgia. Got in the car at 5 in the morning in Atlanta. Drove down. Got there at 7:30, and then paid my $65. Had a great workout, and then a day later, back in Atlanta, I got a phone call that the Columbus War Dogs of the Arena Football 2 League wanted to sign me, and that's kind of how I started.
So and you brought up a good point, because I've seen it over the last 5-10 years, like, where players, they kind of, a lot of times they're a little high on their own horse here, where, oh, I'm not paying to go to a tryout, or I'm not going to an open tryout, because teams don't pick up guys there. And I can tell you as a team owner, I know our teams have picked up guys at free agent workouts every year. And sometimes that's what it takes to get in front of, the coaches. So, I mean, now that you're on the coaching side of it, do you, look at guys at these tryouts? I mean, do you hold tryouts still?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, for me, it's we hold tryouts every single year, every team I've been a part of. Even when the teams I played for had open tryouts that I was already contracted to, I would want to go out there and I would want to help, and I'd want to just kind of check out the talent, because I was fascinated. I knew I always was going to be a coach, and I'm fascinated by the business aspect of side of things, and just little ins and outs of arena football as a whole, and football organizations as a whole. But for me, it was, it's never beneath me. I think one thing that I've learned just in the entirety of my life, if we go back to high school, I didn't start on my high school football team. A good buddy of mine who's now a defensive back coach for the Air Force, university, Air Force Academy. He played for the Broncos for 4 years. I mean, I was behind a lot of great players. And I was a role player. I was a role player for the number 14 team in the nation in high school. So I learned early on, the concept of team, but the concept of look, I know that I'm good, but you're going to be around a lot of talented individuals. And that was just my high school. So I think a lot of guys come out of high school and they come out of college like they're the man. For me, right. I was always a guy who just had to make his way. Nothing was really ever handed to me. An athletic standpoint, I always had to work for it. So, again, when I do hold these workouts, for the Albany Empire and for all the other teams I've coached, I mean, I praise these guys for coming out, for giving it a shot, obviously for taking their hard-earned money to kind of, prolong and live a dream. And look, we've had players that have signed with me, at open workouts that now play in the Canadian Football League, that we've gotten to have eventually have NFL tryouts. I mean, look, you can find great talent. And I always say, look, there's diamonds in the rough anywhere or everywhere. You can't locate everybody. So I really use the open workout system as a way to get guys onto the team, because look, I'm looking for that guy. There's no better story than that. To get a guy that paid money, drove a couple hours, or flew across the country,
slept in his car.
I mean, that's what it is, man. I mean, that's the life right there. And to be able to help somebody and not force it. As a coach, I don't just say, hey, let me just sign anybody. But if guys are good enough, and I feel like the athletic ability is there based on the evaluation of talent, like, we're going to sign a player.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to just, for these guys out there to kind of hear that, because you see a lot of people pop up and do free agent camps. They're not even affiliated with teams, or, sometimes you'll see teams that are just abusing it. They'll hold, 20 tryouts or something ridiculous. It's like, you want to find that talent. And as a coach, obviously you want to put the best team, you can on the field. But going back to your playing days, so you started out in Columbus, Georgia, which I've been down there. Probably when that team shut down, we started a team there called the Chattahoochee Valley Vipers.
All right.
Which now is the Lions. And Jason Gibson was a head coach in Raleigh when I was the league president, and then went down to Columbus for the Vipers. So, and he's still there. He's probably the longest tenured coach, I think, anywhere for arena football. But, so where did you go? Kind of walk us through your career. How many years did you end up playing?
Yeah, so this is in the spring of 2004. So really, it happened very quickly for me. So I graduated Mercyhurst. Our last game is Division II level. It's like right before Thanksgiving. If you don't make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs. And so CFL workout, NFL, look, is all in that kind of early spring session. And this is about March 2004. So it happened rapidly quick, where I go from Erie, Pennsylvania to Atlanta to drive down to Columbus, and then I get signed. And then going down there, just an eye-opening experience, because again, this is not millions of dollars, and so I think everybody thinks, hey, you're playing professional football, so you sign a contract for $500,000. That's not the case. But the goal for me, and this is why the AFL was such a strong system, where you had at that time, and this is just how I envision things, much like anybody else that wants to get it to the top. I'm looking at it like, as a player, hey, the AF2 is a funnel system to the AFL, and then seeing that the AFL is a funnel system to the NFL, I'm like, hey, look, I'm two teams removed, from making my ultimate dream of playing in the NFL. So, how do I get there? What do I need to do? And so going down to Columbus, I was there all of 2004. And then in 2005, I played for the Macon Knights in the South Georgia Wildcats. So I split my time before there, went to Macon. Things didn't work out there. Just, they had a lot of good players, and, wouldn't get a lot of playing time. So I asked, requested a trade, super respectfully, still friends with the coaches to this day. Up there was, it was Mike Hold and Coach Stingley. Derek Stingley, awesome guy. Obviously, his son right now is crushing it for LSU, is the Derek Stingley Jr. So it's really cool, seeing him run around at 4 years old then, and now now at LSU, probably going to be a first round draft pick here in a year or two. But And then from there, he traded me to the South Georgia Wildcats because I basically asked, like, this was basically the rhythm of Arena 2, and this is how it happened for me. I'm in Columbus, Georgia, not knowing, what's going on. Your family, who's always super supportive, kind of has that bug in your ear. Hey, is this something that you want to do? When they kind of see the paycheck that you're playing for, and I said, look, yeah, I was like, I got the vision, I promise you. And really, what I did was I got a job in a factory. It was actually a processing plant. Down there, a lot of factories down there. This is actually at the height of the Iraq War, Afghanistan War, where Columbus, Fort Benning, a lot of the service members left to go overseas. So there was a lot of opportunity for, a lot of men and women went overseas. The kind of town was looking for something to do, and they would come to the games. I remember our first couple of games. There were so many men and women in their service uniforms at the games, and then midway through the season, it kind of all stopped. I remember it was really interesting because you don't forget those things and where you are when things happen around the world. So for me, what I did, what I recognized, I was like, hey, I don't know how long this team is going to be around, unfortunately. So I got a job, and I got a job facilitating just some extra cash at a factory. I was driving a forklift. I remember taking naps in the freezer department to get ready for practice, because practice in Georgia, in the dead heat of Georgia, in the middle of the summer when arena football is played, I mean, that is very, very hot, and we practice outside. We practice from 3 to 5:30. So I was working from 7 to 2 in a warehouse, and I remember I was eating one meal a day, and I didn't have that much money, and I was kind of sleeping on a pull-out couch. It was one of those kind of situations, and I was completely fine with it because I knew ultimately it would get me to where I needed to be. We were living in Opelika, Alabama, and we were playing in Columbus, Georgia. And for those who don't know, that's actually a time zone change. So, in my hotel room, I had, in camp, I had 2 different clocks. I didn't know what time zone I was in. I mean, it was a completely new world for me. But again, another great life experience going from where I came from, and obviously prep school, and then college, and then down into, really, really, the southern area of the map. But after that, played for Macon for a little bit, which was great. I went home between those seasons. My mother is a principal at a high school at that time, and I was actually the in-house permanent sub. So a lot of arena football players on the side, they're substitute teachers to facilitate some extra income. Came down to Macon, Georgia, gave it my all. I was there for about 4 or 5 games, wouldn't get a lot of playing time. And finally I said, hey, look, coaches, I appreciate the opportunity, but, I need to play. Like, if I'm going to play for, this amount of money, I need to get filmed. That's obviously the goal. And they said, well, what team would you like to be traded to? And I said, who's ever closest? I mean, that's just my mindset. It doesn't matter to me. And they said, well, hey, and they were really, appreciative of me being, stand up with them and giving my all. And they said, yeah, let's facilitate Keefe's wish. And they sent me actually to the South Georgia Wildcats. And the South Georgia Wildcats at that time was the head coach was Chris Siegfried, who's now the commissioner of the NAL, and Troy Bilodeau and Travis Crusenberry. Troy Bilodeau was defensive coordinator. Travis Crusenberry was the offensive defensive line coach. I remember getting in my car after a Macon Knights practice, probably has to be an April situation, April of 2005. And I drove, another hour and a half south from Macon, Georgia to Albany, Georgia. And I remember, hey, I had to get there before practice, and I literally showed up probably about maybe 30 minutes into practice. Guys were already stretched, and they said, hey, gear up, get yourself stretched, and we'll work you out. And I remember the workout, I had 2 interceptions in the one-on-one drills. I had an interception in 4-on-4, which is the arena football version of 7-on-7. And then that was kind of it. And they wanted me, and a week and a half later, I'm starting as a defensive back for the South Georgia Wildcats.
And that was that their first season?
Yeah, I think it was. And again, it's a little foggy, I think, for me, as being that age, not really knowing the history of all the teams that I was for me, it was like, get on, do what you need to do. Yeah, obviously now
I just want to play. I just need that film.
Yeah, that's really what it is, and I think a lot of players are like that too. A lot of players are young when they're like, hey, I don't really know too much about arena football. And then you're like, hey, man, this team's going to pay me to play and I can get good film. Hey, whatever you need me to do.
I'm just playing. Well, so, I remember that team going there because I remember Siegfried was down there and had great fan support. I mean, the atmosphere awesome. At those games was unreal.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And for me, it's about Columbus, and I'll never knock that. Before the obviously the war hit in 2004, where everybody was sent over. I mean, I was amazed. I mean, servicemen and women, obviously. I mean, that's an awesome atmosphere to play in front of to begin with. I just remember 6,000, 7,000 troops in their fatigues being out there, and obviously their family members with them. I mean, that was awesome. And then going to South Georgia. I mean, they had a live band that was there. I mean, they had a high school band that would play. I mean, it was a really, really good atmosphere to play in, and I loved it. I loved the city. It was awesome. The situation was a little bit more comfortable in terms of our living situation. I didn't have to get a job on the side because kind of things were taken care of for us. It was set up in a way where, I kind of saw it again. Obviously, I compare. That's what I do. I mean, I'm an evaluator at heart. So for me, I'm evaluating how guys are living, how guys are eating, how we travel. What's the coaching situation like? How we prepare? How do we watch film? Those are all things that I absorb because I know eventually, hey, when I become a coach, I'm just kind of, I want to know what to do and what not to do. But it was good. It was a good situation. Played with a lot of good players. It was actually when there was a two-way game, so you played on the offense and defensive side of the ball. So I was actually a wide receiver and a defensive back. That was a really good experience for me. Loved it. Got a lot of good film out of that. And then, unfortunately, Coach Siegfried was let go. Didn't really have a great record. Things just weren't working out. And then Donnie Davis, a coach, came in, and that was it. Finished the season with South Georgia Wildcats. And then it was kind of, now what? It was kind of like, what do you do? So, I said, okay, well, now I'm kind of getting my feet wet. I don't know if it's enough film to get me into the AFL, but I need to go on some AFL workouts. I mean, that's really what I need to do. Altogether between Columbus and South Georgia, I probably have maybe 10, 12 games of film that I felt comfortable about and got better each year. The first year of Columbus, I had no interceptions. I was learning the game, playing sparingly. Then I get to South Georgia and I have 3 interceptions, during that season. So I'm kind of getting it a little bit. And so I go home again to Virginia with, living at home with my parents, in 2006, I'm 25 years old, just turned 25. And so the off season, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm substitute teaching. And then I go on a couple workouts. I go on a couple tryouts, to the Columbus Destroyers, the New York Dragons. I'm kind of getting the feel down of, okay, bigger, stronger, quicker, faster. The higher the level you go, the better the talent's going to be. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to get this down a little bit. And that was really good for me to go on those workouts, to really see the kind of next level of talent that I would be competing against. Because then I got a phone call from Coach Siegfried, and he got the job in Spokane, Washington. And that was kind of the moment of my life where it kind of changed professionally. I was the first player that they signed for the 2006 season for the Spokane Shock, completely across the country. I remember getting into my car in February of 2006 and driving from Virginia all the way out to Spokane, Washington. And it was just an awesome experience. Yeah, it was great. I said I wanted to do it. And another buddy of mine that played with me for the South Georgia Wildcats, he also came with me. It was great. And Coach Siegfried had the same coaching staff that he had in South Georgia, so there was some familiarity there. I felt comfortable with the coaches. And then, just really, really fell in love with the city. Spokane is a great place. Football works there, and so, for me, it was awesome to kind of see, that part of the country. And then being, a starting defensive back, getting first team all arena, winning a championship. That was the first championship I was a part of. We went, 14-2 and then ran through the playoffs. And that was kind of the beginning of arena football could really be something for me.
And so how many years did you play out in Spokane?
So I played 2 years in Spokane, and it was awesome. That's kind of, after the first game of Spokane was on a Thursday night. We won on a blocked field goal. It was awesome. But on a Thursday night, there was 9,500, fans in the building. And I said, look, on a Thursday night to have this, it really was. I mean, the only thing in Spokane, it really is athletically, is a Gonzaga University. They have a minor league hockey team, but it's a junior team, about 16, 17-year-olds. They have a single A baseball team, but really it's the Spokane Shock. And so that was like the beginning of like they needed something, and you could feel it. And if Seattle is Philadelphia, Spokane is Pittsburgh. So it's about 4 hours inland from the coast. So it's right near Idaho. It was just it's a really good experience for me. And the first game, we win. I had 2 interceptions in the first game, and I had an onside kick recovery, I had a fumble recovery. It was just one of those things where I think I had a touchdown. I had like 11 tackles. It was a good experience. And in the second game, when we come home after a road trip, the second home game, some fans had key fence signs. And that's kind of what started the nickname for me. And it kind of gave me confidence. It made me realize like this really could be something. And that year was awesome. And so 2006, we won the championship. We actually played it in Puerto Rico. We played against the Green Bay Blizzard. It was moved it was going to be played in Bossier City, Louisiana. And that was kind of a Hurricane Katrina situation was going on. And the New Orleans Saints had to move their game from the Mercedes-Benz Dome. They had to move it to LSU. And LSU was close to Bossier City. So the New Orleans Saints Dallas Cowboys preseason game was probably going to interfere with the championship game. So the owners of the Arena Football League and the commissioner, they decided to move the game to Puerto Rico. So I got to spend with my teammates and family a week down in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and it was all business. And we won the championship. And I just remember how many AFL coaches and scouts were there. And I had an interception in that game as well. And it was like, okay, this could really start something. And so after the 2006 season, I had more workouts. Tried out for the Colorado Crush. Trying to think of all the teams I worked out for, but I had the Kansas City Brigade. I was actually in 2007. I was in camp with the Kansas City Brigade. Got cut for the Kansas City Brigade, and then went back to the Spokane Shock. So much like AAA, AA baseball, I always relate arena football too. So I got cut from the AAA affiliate, went back down to the AA affiliate. If you would say, the NFL is the top dog there. So went back to Spokane, and then had a great season there. Coach Adam Shackelford was a new coach because Coach Siegfried actually helped me get to camp with the Kansas City Brigade because he became the offensive coordinator. And so coaches do the same thing. They jump to the next level. In 2007, we lost in the playoffs, but I was, again, all-arena player, first-team all-arena. So I go from no picks, no interceptions in Columbus to 3 interceptions in South Georgia. I had 13 interceptions the first year in Spokane. I had 12 interceptions the second year in Spokane. So, 25 interceptions over 2 years in arena football. I really felt like I did what I needed to do. And that was the last time I played Arena 2 because then I was able to graduate to the AFL.
Who'd you start with in the AFL?
So the AFL was interesting. And again, I always kind of take the hard route. Not saying I'm a glutton for punishment, but I'm able to see things like, even though when you're going through some tough, difficult times, I'm able to see like kind of the way out in a way where it's like, look, like what is ultimately going to be the best in the long run? What's going to be the best in the future? And so what I wanted to do was that I wanted to go to an AFL team where I could actually learn the most. I really appreciated that. I saw the difference in the organizational structure of Spokane to Columbus and South Georgia. And not saying there was anything wrong with those organizations, but Spokane was just a different animal at that time, and different ownership, it was just run differently. And I kind of saw, okay, like, hey, to be successful, is it any coincidence that I happened to be with a really good organization? So I had actually a contract offer on the table for the Columbus Destroyers, the New York Dragons, but I had actually a 2-day contract on a waiver with the Philadelphia Soul. And what a 2-day contract is, some leagues now give 4 days where you basically are coming to camp on a tryout situation, on a tryout basis, where you have 2 days at that time to be better than anyone on the roster, where they would then make room for you on the roster. And I said, you know what? I said, Philadelphia is 2 hours away from my home in the Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. I said, it seems like it's a really, really talented roster. And I wanted to give it an opportunity. I actually had a workout with the Philadelphia Soul, that off season, and I really enjoyed the coaches. I enjoyed the camaraderie. I felt like they were on to something big. John Bon Jovi was the owner at that time, with Craig Spencer and some other owners. Ron Jaworski was the team president. of the Philadelphia Soul, and then Brett Muncy and Connell Maynard and Jerry Odom. I mean, these guys are, kind of getting in their, where they are now. But, I just really felt like it was a really good coaching staff. So I went there on a 2-day waiver, and they had a lot of, really good talent. And then literally for the entire month of camp, I continued to battle player after player. So after the first 2 days, I got a contract. And then once you get a contract in professional sports, it doesn't really mean anything. It just means that you're there for a day. I mean, guys,
you can still be cut at any time. Yeah.
Yeah. That is just on, hey, I just happen to be there. It's a slice in time. And then I realized, hey, there's, 15 to 16 DBs out here every single day. I don't have to be the best, even though I want to be the best,
right,
but I got to be better than the last guy. And so that's kind of my mentality. And every day was game day. And we had some amazing players, just on that roster, and we actually end up winning the championship in the AFL, and that was an amazing experience. Played at that time. It was yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's your second championship then. So AF2 was your first.
Yep, AF2 was my first championship as a player, and then 2008 again being a role player. So I go from being the captain of the team for 2 years. In the Spokane Shock, I was the captain of the team, first team All Arena, leader of the team, if in a way, if you want to call it that. And then in 2008 was a role player. I mean, I was a young player, 26, and around a lot of good talent. We had a number of people that were drafted in the NFL, a number of players that played, considerable years in the AFL. Tony Graziani, Matt DeRazio, Chris Jackson, Phil Bogle. I mean, just right now, the coaching staff, Brett Muncy coached, for the Washington Redskins. Connell Maynard is the head coach of Alabama A&M right now. Jerry Odom is the head coach of Tusculum University. Phil Bogle, is director of game day operations for the NFL. It's so many guys, and obviously Ron Jaworski being who he is. So being around all these people, having conversations with John Bon Jovi, just kind of again absorbing it, soaking it all in. And look, at the Wachovia Center, which is now the Wells Fargo Center. Look, 24,000 people. And I could be embellishing, maybe 18 to 22,000. I mean, it's just an amazing, amazing atmosphere to play in. ESPN, Monday Night Football, getting considerable playing time. Again, I was, the fifth defensive back, and then somebody got hurt, and I became the fourth defensive back, and then somebody got hurt, and I became the third defensive back. And I never looked back, and was a kick returner for them as well. But just every single day, I knew that I was on the chopping block. Every single day I knew I could probably get traded. Every single day I knew I could be cut. Early in the season, I was on the practice squad, had to kind of work my way up. So really made me who I was, just kind of continue that grit and determination and just overcoming adversity. But really appreciative of the coaches giving me the opportunity, and what a great season. And again, won the championship against a very good San Jose SaberCats team in New Orleans. It was cool, man. I wore the number 22, and it was Arena Bowl 22. And then, Sports Illustrated, when you opened up, after we won the championship, after the front cover, you open it up and there's a full page, picture of me, jumping up, coming out, being introduced out of the tunnel. It was just a cool year. And again, very, very fortunate to be on that team.
How tough was it just kind of not letting your ego take control? You're the man in Spokane, and then you're coming in here and you're it's like you have to prove yourself. And do you ever get that? I'm Rob Keefe. I'm the man. How do you?
Yeah. It's funny. I honestly think with my experiences too, I think there's a big difference of being confident and cocky. I don't think I've ever been a cocky person. I think a lot of people might think that. And I'm very transparent.
Yeah.
I'm just a confident person. I had to work on that.
You gotta have a little swag, man. When you're
you got to have some swag, and it's really when the lights go out. I'm just a normal dude, and but in Spokane again, when you realize, hey, it's just a different role, and I was learning how to play different roles. Like when you're the captain of the team or one of the captains of the team, and you're an all-arena player, and you're having interceptions, and look, I was a coach out there. Look, the second year in 2007 as a defensive back, I called the defensive secondary coverages as I played. There was just a different. I just know the game. I knew I was always going to be a coach, and I just studied it differently. I put more hours in. I was just that guy that was up at 6 o'clock and at practice, 2 hours before everybody, and I watched film. I didn't go out. I'm not a big drinker. It was just a different mentality. And then going to Philadelphia, it was. I know I have the mental capability to play here. physically, there's a lot of good talent out here. So every day I just had to keep up. So it wasn't really me kind of checking my ego. It was more of me doing everything I possibly could to continue this dream and this goal. And so I just had to work hard. I had to work really, really hard. And every day I looked at it like, look, Tuesday and Wednesday is the opportunity where teams bring in other players to try out for their team. Same thing in the NFL. And so when those players are allowed to practice with you on the 2-day waivers, I'm very aware as you look around the room, well, hey, if there's a defensive back in the room, if this guy's really good, who would they probably replace? If I'm the low man on the totem pole, it's going to be me. So every single day was, I got to be better than this guy. And so literally I just made it my goal. I got really competitive with this person. I wasn't a jerk, but I was just like, hey, look, in one-on-ones today, I got to get a pick or two. When we're on scout team, if I'm on scout team, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get an interception. Chris Jackson and Larry Brackens and Brent Holmes and all these awesome receivers. I got to make sure I lock them down. And that's really what it was. I mean, it really showed me what I had inside. And after that season, I mean, make no mistake about it, I was exhausted because every day was a game day for me. And then I also had to play the game. So, when you're that kind of guy and you're that role player, a lot of NFL players probably feel this all the time, that you just every single day I had to make sure that I was better than the next guy. So mentally it was very exhausting. But yeah, it humbled me, but it made me realize if I just worked really, really hard enough, I could accomplish my goals.
So playing, how many championships total? Was it just those two, or did you get another
those two? Yeah. So literally what happened, we won the championship in New Orleans, Arena Bowl 22. It was awesome. After that, we go back home to Philadelphia. I'm like, this is great. I'm training. I got the speed of the game down now. I just played on the best team in arena football. Some other teams were calling me. They were offering me contracts. I decided to stay with Philadelphia, and I got offered a good-sized contract. I'm now making money. I'm feeling good. I literally, in my head, I'm like, look, I hope the NFL calls one day. I'm only 26. This could be, or I'm 27, excuse me, at that time. And I said, look, this could, if another year or two of just playing hard, hopefully I get my shot. If I have a workout, again, signed a good contract. I'm going to stay in Philadelphia. I'm going to work out. And that's what I did. And literally, I had a buddy that lived in Philadelphia that I went to college with, right downtown in South Philadelphia. It was great. Little Italy area, like right near the arenas. I would jog every day to a local high school where I would train. I would work out, got myself a part-time job. I was with a gym, just training and lifting, really doing my thing. And I'll never forget this. So I had a part-time job in Circuit City. And a lot of people were asking me, like, why were you working? And I said, look, it's never hurts to put money in your pocket. We had a fan, a sponsor of Philadelphia that actually owned a Circuit City when those things were popular at the time. And this is, 2008, the winter of 2008. And, maybe spring of 2008. And so I'm in great shape. I'm feeling great, 27 years old. I work maybe 20 hours a week. I'm selling TVs. It's a great story. I'm selling TVs in the Circuit City section during the day. Not that many people come in to buy TVs during the day, unless it's maybe a lunch hour just to kind of check around. So this is where flat screen TVs were kind of big, So it's literally like a movie. So I'm standing there by myself. There's nobody in the store really. And I mean, probably, no lie, there's probably 35 TVs on that all have ESPN on. Big, small, little, literally, imagine if a camera was behind me, it's just me looking up at these TVs. And all of a sudden I can't remember, I want to say it was Neil Everett. I want to say, I never forget it. And Neil Everett, ESPN host on SportsCenter, has, reporting the sports news, and in a box next to his head is the AFL logo. And I'm like, oh, I start perking up. And I've been hearing some rumblings about just some union issues, some ownership issues. I was really concerned about this kind of stuff. And he announced that the Arena Football League was going to fold and was going to cease operation. And here I am in Circuit City, got my Circuit City polo on, got all these TVs on. I'm like, I was kind of frozen. I was like, what? I just got started in this thing. But yeah, 2008, after 2008, that was, so this is spring, early winter 2009. This is like January 2009, whatever it was. And immediately I was just kind of stunned. And I was like, I guess I'm not playing in the Arena Football League this year. And that was an eye opener. That that was an eye opener because the housing crisis and the financial crisis of 2008, 2009 was going on, and that's when I started really tying in the business aspect of things, where I was gathering a lot of information as a player, and I was getting better as a player. I was put around a lot of coaches that knew a lot of good things, so I was gathering information that way. And then from the business side of things, seeing how things were operated, all of a sudden recognized, unfortunately, that the Arena Football League ceased operation, and that was the end of my playing career. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the last time that the Arena Bowl 22 was the last time that I suited up to play football.
Now, was it just that you didn't want to, play in the AF2? Because the AF2 still played that year, I think, right?
Yeah, no. So this is literally my situation. I was like, well, look, as you kind of gather the facts, it took about 2 or 3 weeks. Coaches call you. I have an agent. My agent calls me. I'm talking to some other players that are union representatives of our team in Philadelphia, and I'm just gathering as much information as I possibly could. And I'm like, what do I do here? What are my options? And I actually had, after that 2008 season, I actually had a workout with the New York Giants and the Atlanta Falcons. Nothing came of it, but I was happy to get the phone calls and my agent, going to work for me. And I was like, okay, cool. This is like, people are starting to look at me. At least, not too many people can say that, especially for kind of where I came from. So I could say, hey, look, I'm starting to get on the map.
Right.
A general manager or scout of these NFL teams are talking about me. So then, after that, when I realized, hey, what are my options? I looked into the CFL and I said, okay, well, I could go up there and I could start a whole nother career. Is it just about making money? Is it about kind of perfecting the arena football game? And literally the direction that it took me in was I wanted to play. I said, let me go back to Spokane. Chris Jackson, who is now, he was a wide receiver there for the Philadelphia Soul. He's now an assistant wide receivers coach for the Chicago Bears. So we're good friends to this day. He offered me great advice. And again, when I was playing for the Soul, at 26, 27, it was a very older team. There's guys that are a lot like 30, 32, 33 years old. There's a lot of veterans there. And I think that's why we had so much success, because there was a lot of professional players around the locker room. He gave me great advice, and he said, look, you got to go back to the place that knows you the best. And he's like, that's where a lot of football players will see their success, because why go start somewhere else where no one knows you? Go back to where people know you the best, and you can build off your name, and you can build off your connections and your relationships that you've already made. And I said, that's a great point. Coincidentally, he played at Washington State University, which is, very close to Spokane, Washington. So I said, look, maybe I should go back to Spokane and play for a year in Arena 2. Hey, I can get a job out there, facilitate, some of the money that I'm losing that the AFL is not playing. And all I'm hearing is that the AFL is going to come back in 2010. So I was all about that. And then, unfortunately, the AF2 made a rule that no person who signed a contract in the AFL in 2008 could play for an AF2 team in 2009. And so, I realized that I said, my options are thin here. So I called up the ownership of Spokane. I called the coach of Spokane, Washington, Adam Shackelford, and I said, look, hey, this is the situation. What do you suggest? And they actually offered me the defensive backs coaching position for the Spokane Shock. And I thought about it, and I said, look, there's only so many leagues out there. One of them just folded. Obviously, I'm not signing to the NFL. Do I coach, or do I go try to play in the CFL? And not knowing, kind of that was tossed up in the air. So I said, look, I feel comfortable with the area of Spokane. My girlfriend at the time was living in Spokane, Washington. It was kind of like, this kind of makes sense as far as a stability standpoint. Let me go coach. I'll stay in shape. And then when the AFL comes back, we'll come right back to playing for the Philadelphia Soul. That was the plan. And so that's kind of what was on my mindset. So I, again, drove back out to Spokane, Washington from Philadelphia, drove all the way back out there and loved it. And we were the best team in the Arena 2 league. We ended up going regular season. We went 15-1, and we won the championship. And it was, I fell in love with coaching. I mean, I really fell in love with coaching. I think as a coach, as a defensive coach, we only allowed like 36.5 points a game. We just completely dominated. And there was a lot of great players on the team. The fan base was awesome. The organization was great. And just really learned how to be a coach, at that time.
Was Terrence Sanders out there with you? DB,
Terrence Sanders wasn't there yet.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was coming. He was on his way. Terrence, I believe at that time in the Arena 2 League, played for the Boise Burn. So we got we played against him 3 times, but really good kick returner, defensive back. And then, and look, I sidestepped a situation too. after 2005, when I was with the South Georgia Wildcats, Travis Crusenberry, who was the O-line, D-line coach for South Georgia and Spokane, actually invited me to be a coach at Pikeville College. And Pikeville College is in Eastern Kentucky. And I said, look, I want to see if I can be a coach. And what the deal was in Pikeville College, everyone that was on the coaching staff outside of the head coach and the offensive defensive coordinators was an arena football player. So the idea was we finished up with South Georgia. Season ends up in July and August. I immediately got in a car in Albany, Georgia, and I drove to Pikeville, Kentucky, and I coached the running backs and special teams, and I was a signal caller on offense. 25 years old, got my first coaching experience in Pikeville College, and I stayed there it was just for 5 months. And so when the season was over, I stayed there for one more month, and then that's when I went back out to Spokane. So that's when I really fell in love, with Pikeville, and that's how I got to Spokane because Travis Crusenberry recognized, hey, not only did I play for South Georgia, but they were like, hey, you're going to really love Rob's energy and who he is, and that's when Siegfried signed me back. But that's when I learned about coaching. I really, we were fourth in the nation, an NAIA program. We had a lot of great players come from a lot of big colleges, and we lost in the semifinals. One game away from the championship in the NAIA, and so really knew that, hey, I could really do this, and I really had a way to communicate to players, a relation to players, and just love the process and the organization of it all. But and then I kind of furthered those skill sets coaching in the AF2 for Spokane Shock for the first year that I coached in arena football and got to be a part of a championship. So that was my third championship, and just very fortunate to be in that situation.
So two playing, one at AF2, one in AFL, and then another one as an assistant coach with the Shock in AF2.
Yep. And then that's, again, that kind of plays onto the strength of the roles too. A lot of people, there's a lot of egos when it comes to football, right? So for me, it's, look, I'm not the head coach. I'm the secondary coach, and, I got a lot to offer and I got a lot to help. And they really relied on me to kind of give the next level of defensive coaching to what I got to experience over my course of my career, and kind of brought that mentality, to the players. But again, just a role player role that, going from just a different role of winning a championship, going from, captain and, all arena player to a role player and fighting every day to be on team, and then an assistant coach capacity. And so got to see another championship in another capacity on a football team.
And I just getting to know you a little bit, over the last month or so. I mean, I think that's probably really shaped, you being level-headed, like, you're down to earth. You're not all about, hey, I'm Rob Keefe. So. Well,
it's funny you say that, because a lot of people see the way that I'm on the field, and I'm very intense, and I'm very into the moment.
That, and I love it. I love that.
Yeah, man. I think for me, it's like, look, winning is the ultimate thing. I mean, it's the ultimate rush. I mean, it's like literally you prepare your whole week, your whole season to win these games, which incrementally lead up to a championship. And so, like, I take it very, very seriously. But yeah, when you have all these experiences, it makes you, I think, relate to every capacity that you could probably have in an organization. That, I'm no better than anyone else. I'm just, whatever my role is at the time, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, that's key. When was your first opportunity with, being a head coach?
Yeah. So literally what happened after that championship, literally and look, it's for me, I'm very open, very transparent with how this, how my life has gone. And so what happened was the ownership of the Spokane Shock, then with all the other owners of the Arena 2 League, recognized that the AFL was going to come back. The AFL obviously needed to restructure. There was union issues. There was financial issues. There was a lot going on that a lot of owners could talk more eloquently than I can, about the situation. So for me, it was, where are we? Like, what are my opportunities? Can I play, in the AFL? And then I realized, as a grown man, now being 28, when you take a year off of playing football, you are no longer a football player. And that's it's just the truth. Look, I can work out in the gym as hard as I possibly can, but to not have the training, to not keep up with my speed and my agility, because as a coach, I'm working, 14, 15 hours a day, and I'm grinding. And so I lost probably 15 pounds. I was eating differently. I was training differently. I couldn't just jump back into it. And so I made the decision because of the championship, because I realized I was really good at something. I was a better coach than I was a player, and I recognized it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I miss playing every single day, but I said, look, this is the future. What are my options? So at that time, I got really good, close with Coach Muncie, who was the Philadelphia Soul head coach. The UFL was just starting, and Jay Gruden was going to take over as the Florida Tuskers coach. Sean McVay was on that staff, and I was trying to get on that staff. And I said, look, I think I can offer you something, even if it's an internship capacity. And then as I told the Spokane Shock ownership about that, I realized that they were going to make a change at the head coaching position because the Spokane Shock were going to the AFL. And they, kind of, I think as we all talk about it, we're like, well, we just won a championship. But they felt that, hey, the AF2 was going to be a different animal than the AFL. And it definitely was. I mean, it definitely, people that are in it understand that. And so as I started talking more, I said, well, what's the situation? Is there an opportunity where I could be the head coach here in the AFL if we're going to make that jump? And they said, absolutely. And they gave me an opportunity to interview. And so for me, I'm going to jump at the opportunity if that was going to be the situation. And I said, look, if you're going to make this jump to the AFL, I am now making a decision that I'm going to be, coach and football, playing days are behind me. And so I had to kind of weigh out the options. Do I go in the college game? What do I do? But when the AFL head coaching position for the Spokane Shock was, offered to me, I 100% jumped at it immediately, didn't hesitate. And then at that time, became the youngest head coach, in the AFL at 28 years old. And I knew, the moment wasn't lost on me. Just the capacity of the situation that I was in, being in a team that just won 2 championships in the last 3 years, jumping to the AFL, kind of helping them make that transition. And at the same time being, 10 years younger, at least, of every other head coach in the AFL that I was going to compete against.
When was your next championship?
We won a championship that year. So yeah,
your rookie.
Yeah. So again, look, and so when people think about it, it's almost like there's kind of a code to coaching, and as you grow, you kind of get it. It's a very loyal business. People want to make sure you can trust you. And still, to me, I think about it. I don't have any regrets because you learn from every mistake or situation that you've happened to be in. So I can't say that I have regrets. I just learn from it. Same thing when you lose, right? You either win or you learn. That's how I look at it. It's never a finality to life. Until ultimately, obviously, the end. But for me, I looked at it where you had this head coach, and that was Adam Shackelford, that was the AF2 championship coach. And then why would they make a decision to make that change? And there were some factors, and there's no need to discuss them. But, for me, I recognize, hey, if they're going to offer a job, let's take it. But then it was a rebuilding situation. And so a lot of those AF2 players who just saw me as a 28-year-old head coach, a lot of those AF2 players that were on the Spokane Shock decided to go to other teams. Some of them didn't, but some of them did. And I realized, hey, people see me as a player. People see me as a young coach. I'm not proven yet. And I knew my skill set. Very fortunate that the Spokane Shock saw within me that they saw the skill set and the level of energy and I think diligence that I was going to bring to the profession. So I realized I had to kind of go at this a different way. And so had a really good strategy in terms of how to recruit, good strategy in who I wanted to have on as a coaching staff, and just put a good philosophy together. And very fortunate to have the best record in the AFL. Very fortunate to have a home game for the Arena Bowl. And yeah, we beat Tim Markham and his great team, the Tampa Bay Storm. Obviously, he's a great coach. And we beat them in the Arena Bowl. It was Arena Bowl 23, which is really cool. And did it in Spokane. And I want to say it was 69-57, if I can remember correctly. So really excited. So I became the youngest head coach ever to win a professional football championship, and very, very fortunate to be in that situation.
So fast forward, that was what, maybe 10 years ago?
Yeah, that was 10 years ago now. That was 2010. Yes.
So other quick stops up until where you got to today, because I want to get to where you're at now.
Yeah. And obviously I'm a talker, so we can go into like that. But no,
good,
so
man.
what happened is,
I could talk all day.
I know, man. It's good stuff. But but really, so that was a lot of that was 4 championships in 5 years. And I always kind of equate it to, it's almost like a child star in a way. And I use the word star loosely, but just to kind of paint that picture, when these kids, like, they see success at like 14 years old, and they're on the cover of like Teen Magazine or whatever it is, and then they don't have like a major movie for like 20 years.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I felt, because, you win, I was very fortunate to be on all these teams, all different capacities: head coach, assistant coach, captain, role player, all 4 different championships, all 4 different criteria of how I was able to help the team win. And then 2011, coach for the Spokane Shock. We lost in the playoffs. And then we, went our separate ways. They just didn't re-sign me. And I understood, like, a big thing of our battles was I wanted things to be a certain way, and then I had to learn the business of arena football. I had to learn, being 29 years old, and I just assumed things were going to continue financially to get better and better and better and better. But look, arena football, minor league sports, is a different animal. You got to kind of go with the ebbs and flows. And then from there, came to Orlando. Brett Muncie, head coach of Philadelphia Soul, gave me an opportunity to coach on his staff. I was actually the offensive coordinator. Sold him on the idea of me being offensive coordinator, and it just didn't work out. We started off 0-3. Things really weren't working out, and I kind of was the guy on the fall guy on the chopping block. And that was actually the first time I was let go during a season. It was it was an eye opener to me. And we're still super tight to this day, super cool, no hard feelings. Just
You're not
like
any
other.
Been fired.
It's the life, man.
No matter how great you are.
Yeah, but it was a good learning experience, because it was like, hey, you win a championship, and then you don't get resigned to that team, and then you come to Orlando, this historic franchise, and again, just wasn't comfortable, just never really felt right, and understanding. I was completely appreciative of the opportunity. You go back, you lick your wounds, you say, what could I have done differently? And then Ron James, head coach of the Utah Blaze, the same season in 2012, where I got released at the beginning of the season for the Orlando Predators, were 7-6. 6-5 with the Utah Blaze, and he was having some defensive troubles, and he was going to make a change as a defensive coordinator, and called me up, and I said, let's go, let's do this. I have no problem, and flew out to Salt Lake City, Utah. And so again, I always say this. I say this to kids, but I say this to young people too. Like, all over the country, man, don't be afraid to like live your dream and to go wherever you need to go to get the job that you want to get. And so we go out there. We are 6-5, and we end up finishing the regular season. It was an 18-game season, and we end up finishing at 12-6. So when I get out there, we end up going, 7-1 or 6-1 or whatever it was. And obviously I was kind of the next step that they needed. And we did an amazing job. We actually lost on the last play of the game. We lost to the eventual champions, the Arizona Rattlers. So one play away from getting back to an Arena Bowl. But I realized, hey, now I'm kind of getting my rhythm in here. Very appreciative of Coach Ron James, friends to this day. For Matt Salk, who was the coordinator for me in 2010 when we won the championship. He was the coordinator in Salt Lake City, Utah at that time too. So it was good camaraderie there. Love Matt. Stayed another year in Utah. And we didn't really do that well. Had a lot of injuries. Just really wasn't a good season. The team actually ended up folding. And you're saying, okay, well, now what? And then in 2013, at the end of 2013, I ended up getting the head coaching job back in Orlando, a year and a half after I was just released. And so, they saw something in me. They knew that I was maybe the glue that they were missing. And so not to say, oh, hey, I'm back in Orlando. It's like, no, hey, it's just a new chapter. And then 2014, 15, and 16, I was a head coach in Orlando. We did a great job. I always feel bad too, because everywhere I want to go, I want to win a championship. And we were just running into some buzzsaws, in the Jacksonville Sharks and the Philadelphia Soul and the Arizona Rattlers. I mean, it was a 4-way battle, those 3 years, and got to a conference championship the first year in 2014, lost in the conference championship. And then the next 2 years, we lost in the first and second round of the playoffs. And, again, having great records, 12-4, 11-5. I think one of the years again was an 18-game season, 12-6, but just never could pull off the big one. But felt accomplished. I mean, really, 13, 14,000 people in the stands. Was really proud of kind of what we got Orlando back on the map. But then the Arena League, about 4 teams ceased operation, one of them being the Orlando Predators. I remember calling my dad. They called me into the office about 3 weeks after a playoff game that we lost. And I said, hey, I'm getting called into the office. And he said, well, what do you think it is? And I said, well, either the league's folding, the team's folding, or I'm getting fired. And he said, well, none of those are good things. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, I guess, he's like, hey, be respectful. Don't burn bridges, just obviously have humility. And I came in there, and unfortunately the Orlando Predators were ceasing operation. And then in 2017, there was only 4 teams in the AFL. So another good learning experience for me. That was the only year I've never been involved in the Arena Football League, where I stayed in Orlando. I got a job with a nonprofit, a global organization called Clean the World that I still work with to this day. Literally changed my life. I became a product manager and learned so much about business, so much about the managerial side of things. Honestly, from coaching, I knew how to budget, I knew how to manage people, but just from a actual business acumen standpoint, learned so much. And at the same time, I coached a little league organization, the AAU organization was called the East Orlando Predators, the largest AAU organization in the country. And I actually coached at a high school called Faith Christian Academy, was a defensive coordinator. We lost in the semifinals of the state playoffs, so I was able to take those kids super far. Very fortunate to have that opportunity. We won a championship as the 14U organization, the East Orlando Predators. Just really cool stuff. And I'm really ingrained in the Orlando community. And then when the AFL started to expand and the Albany Empire came on board, Ron Jaworski, who was the team president and then eventual owner of the Philadelphia Soul, who I got to know really well, gave me a phone call. And Phil Bogle, who's now the director of game day operations for the NFL, gave me a phone call as well to recommend me to the AFL. It says, Keefe should be the one that should lead the Albany Empire. And then went through a series of interviews with John Adams, who was very, very high up in the expansion committee and instrumental in the AFL league office, and Ron Jaworski again, and got to meet all the awesome owners for the Albany Empire, and became the head coach of the Albany Empire. And then again, drove up to Albany from Florida. And for that, that was kind of the last stop. And so now we're 2020. We had a great 2 seasons for the Albany Empire. Sellout crowds. The first game we had 14,000 people there. Just amazing. We actually over the last 2 years we were 22-7, including the playoffs. We lost in the playoffs, so it was kind of a heartbreaking loss because the team that we beat all year, the Washington Valor, ended up winning the Arena Bowl. Beat us on our home field 47-40. That was really tough to take because we were the number 1 seed going in. But then reconfigured the team, reconfigured some of the coaching perspectives of it. Got some things that we needed. We thought that were going to kind of take us over the hump. And then again went 10-2 in the 2019 season, and then ended up winning the Arena Bowl and 45-27 against the Philadelphia Soul sellout crowd. On ESPN, it was awesome. And then unfortunately, the AFL folded again, and COVID hits, and here we are. And hopefully we're going to have a great 2021 season now back as the Albany Empire coach. But just a journey, man. I mean, that's what it's all about. A lot of ups and downs, but a lot of great people, a lot of awesome help, and a lot of mentorship along the way, and just taking a lot of information and bits and pieces and kind of putting things together. And but really, a lot of great fans too, a lot of great sponsors, and just awesome people like yourself, and radio personalities, and just community service leaders, and just awesome. I'm very, very fortunate to see this country because of the game of football.
What's pretty cool, I think, about this business that we're in is just like the relationships that you build, and it's a tight-knit group. Even if you don't know like someone like your assistant coach Les Moss, I had met him almost 20 years ago, working, helping Chris Thompson at the time, all these people. And it's just weird how, everyone is connected, and, I'm shocked that we haven't, communicated, over the last 20 years, but glad that we finally have, because I saw, what you guys did up in Albany, and obviously I'm a front office guy, coached a little bit, but I look at the business of it. And so what I saw up in Albany was, is phenomenal. And it's like, you know, as a owner and executive, how do you duplicate that in other markets? Because that's what it's all about. The game of arena football, indoor football, it's awesome. Like you can't not enjoy it. I mean, it's a great time. It's a great form of play, great athletes. But you don't have that support everywhere. And to have, hell, even 5,000 fans is good. And you guys, I remember watching the championship game. I mean, the place is packed. And then to win it on your home field, it reminded me of, I was in St. Louis. We had our undefeated season. Everything was like going our way. Everything. It's like we couldn't lose until the championship game. And we had, you know, maybe 8,000 fans there, which in a 10,000 seat arena, it's a rocking environment.
Oh, sure.
And I'll never forget the other team celebrating on our field. It's brutal. So
that is heartbreaking. You're right.
To see that, you know, that crowd. And I was watching some of the videos from up there, just like some highlights and stuff. And there's passion there. And what do you think it is about that market that makes it so special?
Well, you know, for me, as I got, you know, I started getting better at my job and realized, you know, I do have opportunities, right? I think everybody gets in that stage where as a young person, hey, I'll take anything. And then you start to kind of formulate, you know, what to take, what not to take, what's going to work for you, what's not going to work for you. For me, when I went to Albany and I interviewed, you know, first interviews, you know, 2 hours on a phone call. Second interview was in an airport. You know, you fly in and you meet somewhere quiet. Third interview is, you know, face to face with all the ownership group. You know, those kind of things. For me, the ownership group was my kind of first extension to what Albany was. You know, I researched as much as I possibly can. Just, you know, like for Spokane, going out there. I never forget when I went out there. My dad said the first day I signed my contract, he's like, you know what Spokane means, and you know, it's the Spokane tribe, the Spokane Indian people. It means children of the sun. And so I'm kind of one of those guys where like I go deep into where am I? What is the history behind this team? What are the history behind these people in this community? You know, I'm just a history buff. And so, you know, why are things the way they are? And so the ownership group, you know, presented me an opportunity. As much as they were interviewing me, I was interviewing them, and they hit all the right buttons for me. It was, Albany is a very passionate place. It's a sports town without sports. You know, there's some Division I hockey, there's some Division I basketball, but there's no big time football out there. You know, great Division III football. It's just a passionate place, and it's obviously 2.5 hours north of New York City. So it's in this place where people want to see something big time. It's a big enough city where it can support this. And to me, I thought this is everything that I know that arena football works in. It's a place where people are craving and starving for something, but it's also where there's no other competition. And I know sometimes in arena football, it is hard when you have an NFL team, an NBA team, an NHL team, a Major League Baseball team, whatever it is, you know, that is difficult. Sometimes you can be drowned out. This is where I recognize, hey, this, again, we can be the top dogs, you know, in this city. Sure. Yeah, you know, and so I look at it that way. And then also what I was hearing was the people need something. We need to give the people what they want. And the people are saying, this is what we want. And they wanted to bring a team into the Arena Football League downtown in the Times Union Center. And they wanted to create a better opportunity from a commerce standpoint, from a community standpoint of having games to help the local businesses out, to get people excited. And it flowed, it worked. It was everything I wanted to hear. Like when I hear community and when I hear give back and when I hear for the people, you know, I've always looked at myself as like almost like I'm not an elected official, but like an appointed person to help the city have fun. I mean, look, we're in the entertainment business. Not too many coaches will say that. My job is to make sure that people can come to the games, feel comfortable about the money that they're spending, and go away satisfied. And that's why I want to win every game, because I know that person is going to come back and say, look, I feel comfortable that I just spent whatever, $50 to $100, whatever it might be on beer and parking and hot dogs or whatever, but they can feel like they had a great time with their family, and we were able to provide that to them, ultimately making our community a little bit better and joyful. I mean, that's how I really look at it. So it was just, for me, it just hit all the right buttons, and yeah, super proud to be a part of it.
Well, I mean, you finished the last season off pretty strong. You know, do you have a lot of returning guys coming back? Are you kind of building from scratch? I mean, with COVID obviously canceling last season, do you still have a pretty good base of guys?
Yeah, man, we're going to have an awesome roster. I mean, we really are. The thing is too, like, say COVID, it's kind of like, the elephant in the room. Well, the CFL, Canadian Football League, had a cease operation. The XFL had a cease operation, and they're not going to come back till 2022. And the AFL obviously did not fold because of COVID. They folded for other financial reasons. And so here we are as really the top dog. That's how I look at it. The National Arena League, who the Albany Empire obviously came back into, under new ownership, who's super excited to get this thing going. My job is to help get this going, get this thing back in the community, obviously use the passion and the energy that I have. I have a great coaching staff. Les Moss is back. And I don't talk about him enough. I mean, he's an amazing person, who was the guy that, was beating me in all these playoff games. When we were, he was in Jacksonville and I was in Orlando. I beat him in a playoff game. He beat me the next year in a playoff game. So we were going back and forth. It's almost kind of like my arch nemesis. And then calling him when there was an opportunity, when he was no longer a Jacksonville Sharks head coach, I said, look, if there's ever an opportunity we can get to work together, I want to do that. And then, we obviously had an opportunity to work together in 2018 and 19. And, it's just best of friends now. I just solely respect him as not only a football coach, but just a person. And so we're putting together a great team. And then the reason why I mention all those other leagues is because there are so many players out there that want to play football. There's so many players out there that want to continue their career. And why would you not want to play for the Albany Empire, who really are defending an arena football championship? So our last team was a little bit older, on the older side. We'll have some players back from that team that were a little bit on the younger side. It was really interesting. We had a lot of 33, 34, 35-year-olds. But we also had a lot of 24, 25, 26-year-olds. It was kind of this. I mean, you can almost separate it down the middle of the veterans into the young players. So a lot of those young players. Oh, that's exactly what it was, and that's why the balance worked so well, because you had a lot of veterans that were helping these young rookies get along. So the veterans finished their career right. A lot of them are retired. They've kind of moved on, family life, next kind of phase of their career professionally. And a lot of these young players are super excited. So we'll be signing a lot of those guys. And then a lot of young players around the arena football leagues, the NAL, a lot of players coming out of college. But, yeah, come to start date of 2021, we'll have 40 to 45 guys on that roster that'll be rocking and rolling, and very excited about it.
I think, just kind of hearing your story and, what would be cool for me if I was in your shoes is like, okay, so it's kind of coming like full circle. So now you're playing in a league that has the Columbus Lions, which is kind of where, Columbus, Georgia is kind of where it started for you. So going back to be able to play in that same arena, kind of see the city, 15 years later, to me, that kind of stuff is like cool. I get kind of geeked out about that dumb stuff, but
it is.
It's just cool. And now you're going to be coming back to Orlando to take on your old team and, Jacksonville, your old rival. So it's cool. And it's, as much as, everyone knows everyone and, you like some people, you don't like some people, but the thing I always like is I always thought it was more fun playing against people, like even my friends, because I want to beat the hell out of them. I literally just want to be, it's like your brother,
right,
or sister. You always want to do better. And so, and then you go out and you have a good time.
And for me, it's not lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's not lost upon me. I think too, also you have, myself, who's won 5 championships, Coach Moss, who's won 5, and coach in a number of championships, that with a lot of these coaches who might have never coached in the AFL, this is an opportunity where I know they want to beat us, and I'm aware of that. There's a lot of players out there that want to prove of why maybe last year or the year before that we passed up on them and didn't give them an AFL contract. I love that stuff because I love the competition. I love, I know, and again, I hate, because I don't want to sound too cocky. I don't mean it to sound like that, but I'm very aware that people are going to give us their best. I mean, the teams that once you start winning championships and once you kind of prove yourself that you are at a certain level, you're always going to get the best of the other challenger. So, we're really, really excited for that. I mean, for me, the main focus is, Albany is such a grassroots place to build it organically when it comes to arena football. I'm excited to get back into that community. I'm excited to get the fans back in the building. I know that they've been waiting for such a long time. New York people are so strong. They're so tough. They're so ready to experience such an amazing environment that arena football kind of puts forth, and it's going to be a really cool time again.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to kind of watch. I saw that you guys recently launched your social media, the websites, up Albany Empire, NAL.com, I think it was. So, I mean, it's going to be fun. Obviously, COVID is the big curveball, but, it looks like, you're out, pounding the pavement already and trying to get things going for next year. So I'm kind of excited to watch and see the growth that you guys have there and hopefully carry that 14,000 plus fans, through. Because even as an away team, it's great to come into those kind of atmospheres. I always love going on the road and the fans are booing at you, because after the game, they are usually the coolest people. Yeah, love it.
And that's why I want to replicate it. I mean, you replicate that crowd and that atmosphere. I mean, who doesn't want to play in that? You're exactly right. Even if you're, the visiting team, that it's just going to elevate your game, and because that's more intense. I mean, no matter what team you're on, that's what you want to play in front of. You want to play in front of that crowd. That's really what you play for, and that's why a lot of guys do and will sign to Albany, because they know the level of excitement they're going to have week in, week out. It just makes you feel like you're doing something worthwhile, and it's such a great atmosphere.
Well, and I think, from a player too, I think it opens up more opportunities for them to make other money, whether that be, hey, they're going to find a part-time job because of the stature that they have in the community, or, on the soccer side of things, when I own soccer teams, a lot of these guys made extra money doing like coaching, training kids, clinics. So, in a market like that, I think there's a lot of opportunities to build in, kind of like your coach had told you, go to where you're known so you could build off of that. And a market like Albany is one of those markets that, has the following and can develop more than just on the field for players. So if I was a player,
you're right. You're absolutely right.
I could probably get back in shape if you need me, but
hey, we're always looking for great players. Always, Andrew.
Just sign that waiver and give us that $65 fee.
Yes.
Man,
put forth your best.
You never know. No, man, it was great chatting with you. I mean, I literally could talk to you all day about it because we have so many things that are kind of connected along your path and mine. I'll share with you another time, but no, I think it's cool. It's great to get to know you more because, like I said, you're very down to earth. I mean, you got to have, some ego. You got to have some swagger. I mean, you won championships. It takes that, but behind the scenes, every time I've talked to you, I mean, so down to earth, great guy. I think you're a great guy for up in Albany. I think it's just going to continue to build, and hopefully we can get what is being done up there in all these other markets so that we can have that throughout the league, because arena football is such an awesome game.
Yeah. You touched on a good point. No, yeah, that's so, you're so right. You touched on such a great point. Like, I hope that's the case. I really do. I hope that everybody is able to work together, obviously kind of forecast what the next year is going to bring. And then from that, hey, who's the best director of ticket sales? Who's the best team president? Who's the best game day operations director? Hey, let's bounce some best practices off each other. Let's just see what works, and let's you're exactly right. Share ideas so we can look. There's a lot of talent, out there from a football standpoint, but there's also a lot of front office talent, and the fans want to see great sports. So I don't think with the right ownership and the right mind frame, we can do this all across the country. So excited to see where this goes.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining me. I know I said maybe like 30 minutes and we're like an hour over that. So hopefully I didn't screw your schedule up.
Dude, but when you say 30 minutes, I know what that means for me. Like, I'm a talker just like you, man.
Good. All right, man. We'll keep in touch.
Awesome, Andrew. Thanks so much for having me.